Ion was a quiet, smart boy. He had just joined the new college and was excited for his literature class. He loved books and poetry more than anything. As he entered the classroom, he saw a young woman writing something on the board. She was not like other teachers. There was a calm sadness in her eyes. Her name was Miss Sarah. When their eyes met, something felt different. Ion looked away quickly, not knowing why his heart was beating faster. Miss Sarah smiled, but there was pain behind it. She gave him a book after class and said softly, "Read this when you have time." That evening, Ion opened the book and found a small note inside. It said sometimes the heart doesn't follow the rules. He was confused. Did she write it for him? Or was it an old note? The next day, Ion tried to ask her about the note, but she simply said, "Books speak in many ways." She walked away, leaving Ion with questions in his heart. Something was happening, something strange, something new. A story had just begun, but neither of them knew where it would go. And someone was already watching them. Days passed, but Ion couldn't forget the note inside the book. He started noticing small things. How Miss Sarah looked at the window when no one was watching. How she smiled only with her eyes, not her lips. There was a quiet sadness in her, and Ion wanted to understand it. One rainy afternoon, the class got a surprise assignment. Each student had to meet Miss Sarah for a short discussion. Ion's turn came last. When he entered her cabin, the lights went out. Only a candle on her desk gave light. She looked up and smiled. "Power cut. Just wait a moment." As they spoke, their hands touched while picking up the same paper. Both froze. The touch was soft, accidental, but it meant something. They didn't say a word. Suddenly, Miss Sarah's phone rang. The screen showed, "Don't forget your past." She quickly turned it over. Ion saw her face change. He wanted to ask, but stayed quiet. Their conversation continued, but something had changed. The silence between them was now filled with emotion. Ion left the room, but his heart stayed inside. Outside the cabin, someone was clicking photos quietly, with evil intentions. The next morning, Ion walked through the college halls as usual, but something felt strange. Students were whispering, some looked at him and laughed quietly. He didn't understand why, until his friend Samir showed him a photo on his phone. It was a picture of Ion leaving Miss Sarah's cabin. The candlelight made it look too close, too personal. "Who took this?" Ion asked, shocked. Samir didn't know. The photo had been shared in a college group. Rumors were spreading fast. In class, Miss Sarah looked pale. She didn't smile, didn't even make eye contact with Ion. Her voice was low, and her hands shook slightly while writing on the board. Ion's heart ached seeing her like that. After class, Ion stayed back. "Ma'am, don't worry. I'll talk to the principal. You did nothing wrong." She looked at him with tired eyes and said, "Sometimes truth doesn't matter, only what people believe." That evening, the principal received an anonymous email with a photo attached. A short message said, "Your teacher and student are hiding something." Miss Sarah sat alone in her room, holding a letter she never sent. Ion sat under a tree, looking at the stars, thinking of her smile. A storm had begun. Since the photo incident, everything changed. Miss Sarah had stopped talking to Ion. In class, she treated him like any other student. No soft smiles, no long looks, just silence. It hurt Ion deeply, but he said nothing. He didn't want to make things worse for her. One afternoon, Ion stayed back in the library. He picked up an old poetry book Miss Sarah had once mentioned. As he opened it, a folded paper slipped out. It was a letter, in her handwriting. "If things were different, maybe I could have said yes. But rules are strong, and my past is still not behind me. His hands shook. His heart beat faster. Was this letter meant for him? He ran to her cabin, but she wasn't there. On her desk was a notice. Meeting with principal at 4 p.m. His heart dropped. Was she in trouble because of him? He waited outside the office, hidden behind the corner. When Miss Sarah came out, her eyes were red. She didn't see Ion. She just walked away, slowly. That night, Ion made a decision. To protect her, he would leave the class. Two hearts were breaking, but neither of them spoke a word. The college farewell came with laughter, music, and memories, but Ion felt empty inside. He hadn't spoken to Miss Sarah in weeks. He had dropped her class quietly. She never asked why, and he never explained. Everyone was dressed up. Students were giving speeches. Then Ion's name was called. He walked to the stage, took the mic, and smiled slightly. Some teachers teach more than books. Some teach us how to feel, how to love, and sometimes how to let go. The crowd clapped, but Miss Sarah froze in her seat. She knew the words were for her. After the speech, Ion stepped outside to get some air. He didn't expect her to follow, but she did. "Ion," she said softly. He turned. For a second, both just looked at each other. "I found your letter," he said. "Was it meant for me?" Miss Sarah looked away. "It doesn't matter now." "It matters to me," he replied. "I loved you, and maybe I still do." She smiled sadly. "You're young. You'll forget." "But what if I don't?" he asked. She didn't answer. She gently placed her hand on his shoulder, then walked away. Her words said goodbye, but her tears said something else. 3 years passed. Ion had become a published poet. His book, When Silence Spoke, was doing well. People praised his writing, but only he knew. Every poem carried her name in silence. In a quiet bookstore, far from the old college, Miss Sarah walked through the shelves. She wasn't teaching anymore. Life had moved on, but a part of her heart was still lost somewhere in the past. She picked up a random poetry book. The title made her stop. When Silence Spoke. Her hands trembled as she flipped through the pages. Then she saw it. Inside the book was a photo. It was the class farewell photo. And there she was, standing behind Ion, smiling softly. Below the photo, a line was written. "Some loves are not forgotten. They just live quietly, in poems and memories." Her eyes filled with tears. She sat down on a bench nearby, holding the book close to her chest. That evening, she read every page. Every poem spoke to her. Every word felt like a whisper from Ion. In the last page, a note said, "A special reading event this Sunday at 6 p.m. All are welcome." She didn't plan to go. But her heart had already decided. The poetry event was held in a small hall filled with warm lights and soft music. Readers gathered, talking and smiling. Miss Sarah stood near the back, her hands cold, heart racing. She looked around, but Ion wasn't there. The host walked up to the mic. "Tonight, we start with a reading from the author of When Silence Spoke, but he left us something instead, a letter." A volunteer came forward and began to read Ion's message. Some love stories never get to start, but they never end either. "I wrote this for the one who taught me that love isn't always about being together. It's about feeling something real, even in silence." Miss Sarah's eyes filled with tears. People clapped gently, but she didn't hear them. Her heart was too loud. As the event ended, the host walked over and gave her a small box. "He asked me to give this, if you came." Inside the box was a letter and a pendant shaped like an open book. The letter said, "If you're reading this, thank you for remembering me. I'll be waiting outside, only if your heart says yes." She rushed out, eye searching. And there he was, waiting by the gate, just like before. No words, just eyes, just a smile. This time, love didn't follow the rules. It followed the heart.